The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
All right, it's sunny in Vancouver here on a Friday, but Elliotte Friedman stirring up the drama. What's going on with Ian Clark? We'll talk about it next here on Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer currently with the Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into this episode, we got to thank you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks. You know why? Because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe and like this video on YouTube, and on the podcast side, go leave us a 5-star review and follow us there as well. Because we ain't here without you, but we also ain't here without the sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FANDUEL. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Vancouver Canucks have seemingly gotten started on going in a new direction with Ian Clark, and there's a lot of mystery with this situation, and Elliotte Friedman, Rick Dhaliwal, among other insiders, adding another wrinkle to it today with the report that Ian Clark may be headed to a team like the New Jersey Devils. So what the heck happened with this situation? Let's break it down. We'll also get into the latest Canucks cuts, the roster for tonight's preseason game against the Kraken, and the best bromance on the Canucks as well. The answer may surprise you. But let's start with the news with Ian Clark, because this is a confounding situation, man. And Elliotte Friedman, always stirring up the drama before the season starts here in Vancouver. Come on, man. Last season, it was the Garland trade request. He broke that. He also broke the fact that the Canucks wanted to wait and see what Elias Pettersson did before signing him to an extension. Just ruining the vibes in Vancouver, man. How could you ruin the vibes? How could you do it? Look at this place. Look at the green. Look at the blue skies right now. Are you kidding me? But in all seriousness, there's a lot of confusion with the Ian Clark situation here. So let's get into a little bit. As we knew of a couple weeks ago, the Canucks, they said that they were moving Ian Clark into basically a goalie scout role, and he was not going to be on the ice anymore. And what we heard at the time from reporters and from the Canucks themselves is that Ian Clark initiated the step back. He said, for whatever reason, it was reported that it was a health situation, that he just didn't want to be on the ice on a day-to-day basis anymore. So they moved him to an upper management role, okay? Something in the booth, more on the amateur scouting side, but not in a day-to-day role on the ice with the goaltenders anymore. Based on what the reports we're hearing today, that Ian Clark, the relationship with the Canucks has gone downhill. Apparently this guy wasn't around training camp, wasn't at preseason, wasn't even in town by the sounds of it. And remember, this is a guy who's born and raised in Vancouver, whose family lives out here. He came back to the Canucks in 2018-19 because he wanted to be closer to family. So the fact that this guy wasn't even in town, that's a troubling sign. And it makes you wonder that the Canucks, this came from Patrick Allvin's mouth. He said that he was surprised, and they gave Clark this different position at Clark's request. But based on the reports, that's not the case at all. So where's the truth in this matter? That's what I want to know. Because again, Patrick Allvin, he's a pretty smart guy. He knows Canuck fans are also pretty smart, pretty dialed in. Right? If that's the case, who's lying here? That's what I want to know. Because if Ian Clark is unhappy and is reportedly seeking a contract with another team, there's no way that this guy was thrust into another position at his own request. That makes next to no sense. And it's going to get the rumor mill flying, The conspiracy theories, man. The conspiracy theories. They're flying now, baby. So Ian Clark reportedly wanting to go to another team. Elliotte Friedman reported it to be the New Jersey Devils. And man, oh man, Rick Dhaliwal also saying other teams are in the mix too. He declined to report on exactly what those teams were. But make no mistake about it, this, based on the reports, this is not an Ian Clark decision. This is a Vancouver Canucks decision, and it makes you wonder why one of the most respected goalie gurus in the game today is being pushed out by the organization. And I think a lot of you, including myself, are going to tie it to what transpired with Thatcher Demko here over the past few months. It's a fair question at this point. Did Ian Clark push Thatcher Demko too hard? And is that the reason why he is likely to be on his way out with the Vancouver Canucks? Now, the New Jersey Devils tied to this as well, and that makes sense to an extent because look at their starter right now. It's Jacob Markstrom. Jacob Markstrom is a guy who Ian Clark worked wonders with when he came to Vancouver. His first full season back with the Canucks, the 2019-20 season, where Jacob Markstrom was one of the better goalies in the NHL. Helped the team go on a bubble run in August of 2020. Now, Markstrom was already on an upward trajectory at that point, but Ian Clark took some of the chaotic nature out of his game. Right? What was Markstrom known for when he first came to Vancouver? Letting in the goal 5 minutes into the game on one of his first shots he'd face. He'd get all pissed off. He'd get all peeved. He'd throw a little hissy fit. Ian Clark took that out of his game. So you can see the fit with the New Jersey Devils. That makes some sense. Now, going back to the Demko thing. We heard Jim Rutherford say this over the summer that Thatcher Demko is a bit of a freak with his body. Maybe Demko pushed himself too hard, but perhaps Clark pushed him too hard as well. Because the Vancouver Canucks have said, prior to this season, that they rely really heavily on Ian Clark in terms of goaltending decisions. Did something happen between the medical staff and Ian Clark with some miscommunication there? Did that lead to the fact that Demko's now got this popliteus injury, whatever the hell that is, the muscle behind the knee? Oh my God. Dr. Beggs in the house. Unbelievable stuff. So Ian Clark, again, reportedly going to leave the Vancouver Canucks. And should Canuck fans be worried? I think you should be worried, maybe not necessarily based on the new staff, because Marko Torienis, the Finnish goaltending coach, he's had a good rapport with Kevin Lankinen. Kevin Lankinen's played well. He's helped a lot of other goalies in the past. Well-known goalie coach. And I think it's too early to tell that, Marko Torienis isn't the guy. We don't even know him yet. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But in terms of Ian Clark, that is something where there should be some troubling stuff here because, this management team, they deserve the trust of the fan base. And I think they've earned it so far. But the fact that there's some bad miscommunication here with the fan base, the fact that one of the best goalie gurus in the game doesn't want to be in the hometown team. Again, the guy's born and raised in Vancouver. His family's here. And he wants to go to New Jersey? That is a bizarre situation. And again, I think Canuck fans should be a little troubled right now, but we're also in a situation where it's time will only tell what happens with Ian Clark and the Vancouver Canucks. And again, the story isn't done here. As much as I poo-pooed on Elliotte Friedman off the top, I think the big takeaway here is, what are the Canucks hiding? Because something ain't right with Ian Clark and the goaltending situation. But for now, glass half full is that the Canucks do have Kevin Lankinen in the fold, who has a relationship with Marko Torienis. Archer Shilov's worked a bit with Torienis in the past as well, and he's looked stellar to start the preseason. So there's good things in the air for your Vancouver Canucks, but also, what the hell is going on with the Vancouver Canucks and Ian Clark, and what's to come next? I don't have those answers today, but when those answers come about, we got you covered here on Locked On Canucks. Let's take a quick break, and on the other side, let's talk about the latest Canucks cuts, the preseason roster for tonight's game against the Seattle Kraken, including a couple guys who are playing their third game already, getting in all 3 games with the Vancouver Canucks. My God, some guys are just getting the wheels worked off them right now. So we'll talk about those guys that made the list there, and I do want to touch on the biggest bromance with the Vancouver Canucks as well? Again, that answer I think is going to surprise you a bit. Let's get to all that on the other side after we shout out our friends over at FanDuel and Gametime. You know the deal, baby. If you like that degenerate sports betting nature, you know you got to make sure you use FanDuel, all right? And they got our back here on Locked On Canucks, and we got to shout them out today. Again, FanDuel. Again, if you're a fan of the NFL or if you're a fan of the NHL, they got y'all covered, okay? And you can start the season in NFL or NHL with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And if you missed it earlier in this week, I looked at Canucks who are the over-under for them scoring 20 goals, and a couple intriguing bets there. Connor Garland plus 115 to hit 20 goals. Quinn Hughes plus 500 to hit 20 goals. Can he get better? Come on, this guy hit 17 last year. He believes he can score 20. That's some pretty damn good value there. $5 back for every $1 you bet. And finally, Dakota Joshua. If you're believing this guy's going to come back and be healthy and continue to go at a 20-goal pace, which he was on last season, he's plus 900 right now to hit 20 goals. You can go find that out. You can find all that out and so much more on FanDuel.com. All right. We ain't done there because FanDuel's got your back on the betting side and on the ticket side. You know there's no place you should go other than Gametime, baby. Because Gametime, they got that lowest price guarantee. Come on, you won't find tickets cheaper on another app anywhere else. And there are tickets to be found aplenty right now, right? The BC Lions, the Seattle Seahawks, the Vancouver Canucks. And if your significant other isn't into sports, you can find tickets for concerts, comedy, theater, and more, all on the Gametime app. I was just looking at some Weezer tickets the other day on Gametime. Oh, baby, love me a little Weezer. They're coming to Rogers Arena, I believe it is, on October the 4th, 5th. Gotta love Weezer. Stick it in that hash pipe. And make sure when you're buying tickets, you use Gametime, okay? They got that new feature right now called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. And Gametime Picks filters out the fluff and shows you only incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, all right? On that app, you got the seat views, the Gametime ticket covered, so if COVID hits again, you're covered, baby. And again, that lowest price guarantee. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download that Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right. We're back here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. And a lot of good in the atmosphere right now, okay? The Canucks 2-0 to start the preseason. We're liking the chemistry that we've seen from DeBrusk and Pettersson. We talked about some of the other things that we liked about the preseason so far on yesterday's episode of Locked On Canucks. Make sure you go check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, if you want to see these beautiful 7.5 out of 10 faces of Kyle and I, you can go check us out on YouTube as well. And the preseason keeps rolling on tonight, baby, okay? The Canucks playing against the Seattle Kraken. And before we get to those lineups, let's talk about two of the guys who were cut since we last recorded. Guillaume Brisebois, one of them, and that's not a surprise at all. Didn't get into a single preseason game, missed all of last season. And, I think there's some intrigue with Guillaume Brisebois. I actually thought he'd be higher up the depth chart. But clearly, again, a guy who has just not played hockey in an entire year, who is, oh my God, how old is he now? He'd be 27 years old. Not that old. Come on, I'm 31. So, Guillaume Brisebois, you're doing all right, buddy. But it's interesting, when you've seen him in Vancouver in the past, and when he's played with the Canucks, he's played a pretty big role in the penalty kill. He's looked steady. So I'm kind of curious if he can rediscover his game in Abbotsford. Again, it's hard to miss an entire year of hockey like Guillaume Brisebois just did. I'll also get some love in our comments, too, for Jet Wu. Whether it's the physical game, whether it's the fact he's got one of the best names in hockey. Shout out to Callum Sandu, one of the biggest Jet Wu fans out there. Jet Wu has also been sent down to the minors after just a single preseason game with the Vancouver Canucks. And again, that's not a surprise either. I'm not going to lie. For Jet Wu, don't want to call it make or break because I think at this point he's an AHLer until he proves otherwise. Look, he had his best season. He had his best AHL season last year. Okay, maybe he's on the upward trajectory. Potentially, he's a call-up option, especially because there's less depth on the right side. At least there's less bodies on the right side as there are on the left side. On the left side, again, you got Breezewell, you got Willan, and you got Elias Pettersson, you got Akito Hirose. You got some other bodies there. Kirill Kudryavtsev. There's other bodies on the left side. But the right side, a little thinner. So I think Wu might have a chance later on in the season as a call-up option just based on the fact that he has the best name in hockey. No, based on the fact that there are less options for the Canucks on the right side. It's really him battling, Cole McWard for a recall opportunity at some point this season. All right, the Canucks against the Seattle Kraken tonight. Preseason hockey, baby. You know that gets me stiff. All right, rock hard stuff. And I'm going to see a lot of familiar faces, but let's call it the guys who are playing their third preseason game already. And there's 4 names here. All right. So Max Hassan, who looked much better in the second preseason game against Abbotsford, I thought. Got a goal, obviously, but just a little more aggressive on the forecheck, creating a bit more offensively. Sammy Blais. Blaze it up here in Vancouver. Come on, this Friday, baby. Sammy blaze it up. He's going to get his third preseason game, and I think this is about a make-or-break time for Sammy Blais, who has looked fine at times. He's also looked slow at times. Not a guy who's really stood out, to be honest with you. Then you got Christian Wolanin and Linus Karlsson. Christian Wolanin, look, I had a lot of hype for this guy coming into the preseason. Haven't loved his performance so far through 2 games. I think, again, he's looking more like an AHL call-up option than a guy who might push for a roster spot here before the final cuts. And finally, Linus Karlsson, who's got an opportunity on the power play. Still on the lower side among ice time in forwards this preseason. You know, he's a guy who I think has got like a dark horse chance to make the rosters at 13th, 14th forward. But, you know, when I see like guys like Phil Giuseppe, they just look much, much stronger than Linus Karlsson does. All right. Some of the other guys in action tonight: Brock Besser getting back on, Archie Baines, Phil Pronik, Danila Klimovich, Danton Heinen, Pius Suter, Derek Forbort, and then in net, we should have Kevin Lankinen and Yuri Patera dressing. Expect Kevin Lankinen to get his first preseason game. Kiefer Sherwood, Tyler Myers, Jake DeBrusk, Nate Smith, and then 2 guys who are making their preseason debuts. We talked about these guys. Again, the Canucks prospect pool, the defense pool being cooler than you think. Sawyer Minio of the Seattle Thunderbirds and Kirill Kudryavtsev should both make their preseason debuts tonight. Let's go, baby. Finally, I want to talk about one of the best bromances on the Canucks, okay? Rick Tocchet recently on the Missing Curfew podcast. I touched on a number of things, and, you know, he was very complimentary to his players. Mentioned Brock Besser specifically in terms of battling back. Mentioned Quinn Hughes in terms of him being nervous for the captaincy last season, but being very complimentary of how he handled that. But the bromance, I want to point out, is Adam Foote and Rick Tocchet. So Rick Tocchet said he had a connection to Adam Foote in the early 2000s, back during their playing days. But during his time at TNT, him and Foote actually kept in touch. And Foote would call him and, you know, kind of discuss what he was seeing on the ice and maybe give some critiques and pointers to Tocchet based on what he was commenting on. And they would go back and forth about players and other things. So Rick Tocchet said that when the Canucks were pursuing him, Foote was one of the first guys he reached out to. And even though he doesn't have a lot of experience, he liked his knowledge for the game. And that has clearly paid off, man. So something fishy right now going on up top with Alvin Rutherford and the Ian Clark thing, but you got to love what's going on behind the bench with Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote. There we go. All right, let's get to a couple of quick comments before we get out of here. Shout out to Kurt Richardson in the comments saying that Kurt Richardson heard that Clark may leave for the title. However, he probably won't be paid as much as he is here. So it kind of makes sense to stay. We will see. It does make sense to stay. And that's one of the weird things about this situation is that clearly, as has been reported, there's a fray in the relationship between Ian Clark and the Vancouver Canucks. Something ain't right. Something ain't right. And you can read into it like this. Have the Canucks push Ian Clark out because they think he overworked Demko? Like right now, it's, again, when the organization lies to you, as it seems like they've done, it makes you question things. And we're fair to question what's going on right now. Tyler Gerbov in the comments also talk about Ian Clark being a Canucks legend. It's possible his decisions led to Demko being unavailable for a strong cup push. Yep. It's very possible. And you know what? I don't like to buy into conspiracy theories too much, but when I feel like as a fan of the team I've been lied to, then it opens up the conspiracy theory boulevard. But hey, that being said, Andrew in the comments saying, we all know Elliotte Friedman's a teenage girl with the drum and the gossip. Hey, potentially, man. Potentially. Man, oh man. The last one to Finno. Commenting on my background on YouTube. It's a little different today. I'm at home. My wife's in Alberta. It's me and the 2 kids. Where are my kids right now? Oh, what a great question. Finno in the comments saying the blue frame sunglasses are an interesting choice. I feel like it's a backhand. I feel like you kind of got insulted there, man. Unbelievable. When you say, oh, that's an interesting choice what you're wearing, you start feeling kind of insecure, man. But Finno also says he loves the fern hanging from a chain. That's pretty metal. Man, oh man, if I had some metal lined up for you here, I'd play some metal to end the show. But maybe I'll go suggest that you just go listen to some metal, okay? If you like metal, a band I'm really into right now, Spirit Box out of Victoria. Great band if you like the metal. Couple predictions for preseason action tonight. Andrew saying 3-1 Canucks. Kurt saying 4-2 for the Canucks. There we go. Kurt Richnell saying 80s parenting. Just let my kids figure it out, man. Yeah, they're 3-1. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's all good. Where's Kyle right now? Great question. He's not watching my kids, I'll tell you that much. But Kyle, already celebrating Friday early, man. That guy has got it all figured out. The Canucks might not have the Ian Clark situation figured out. We don't have it figured out. We'll continue to give you updates as they come through here on Locked On Canucks and get to everything else regarding your Vancouver Canucks. But again, I got to see what my kids are up to, so I got to get out of here. Shout out to the everydayers, occasional listeners, first-time listeners, new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. We love each and every one of you, your families, and your dogs too. Preseason action tonight, tomorrow night too, I believe, and we should have you back here on Monday on Locked On Canucks. Enjoy the Friday. Have a great weekend. It's 4:20 somewhere. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. But right now, I got to get out of here. Peace.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.